Hello YouTube, Happy New Year. Yes, I'm going to kick 2022 off with a traditional module review. A real oldie. This is C1, The Hidden Shrine of Tamoachan by Harold Johnson and Jeff R. Leeson. First published in 1980 and reissued in 1982 with a shiny new cover. It was the first module in the C series, with C being short for competition. This selection of adventures made no attempt to hide their tournament leanings, as that was precisely their original purpose, with C1 being played at Origins 79 as Lost Tamoachan, before becoming an official publication for public consumption. The main aim of such modules was to provide tournament attendees, most likely experienced players, with a steely challenge. They would all use the same pre-generated party to tackle a dungeon that was designed to test them to their fullest, with each group scoring points based on the number of rooms visited, puzzles solved and characters remaining alive, all within a fixed time limit. Commonly the dungeons would be designed with the capabilities of the specific characters in mind. Thus, when dropped into a campaign game, such tournament modules could often present serious difficulties. The party would not be designed specifically to cope with the adventure. The players would approach the challenges differently, without a session time limit, and would have a greater deal of attachment to their PCs. Okay, with a bit of the background out of the way, let's get on with presentation. It is a bit of an issue in places. The 1980 and 1982 editions both featured cover work by Errol Otus. The image on the 1982 cover is much better in my opinion. On the plus side, there's a lot more work by Errol Otus and some nice art from Darlene in a splendid book of illustrations to be shown to the players as they enter certain locations to help them visualise their surroundings. These illustrations are really good and really useful. The map is clear, plus there are several specific room maps to assist the DM. But the smaller internal images in the main booklet are a little lacking and somewhat sparse, and the module does suffer badly from being a thick wall of text in places, using a very dense font. With the complexity of many of the locations, there's a lot for the DM to absorb before they can run the module effectively. The Hidden Shrine of Tamoachan is first and foremost a wonderfully evocative dungeon crawl. Set deep in Greyhawk's Amedio jungle, it draws heavily on real-world Aztec Mayan mythology. The creatures, the names, the puzzles, the decorations and the treasures all have been lovingly crafted with a Mesoamerican feel. The writers have put in a whole lot of painstaking research and gone into great detail, and I love this aspect of the module. The atmosphere is unique among D&D adventures of the era. It's the reason why I put my copy of Deity and Demigods behind me there with, what looks like a coatl, some sort of serpent on the cover, because that was an Aztec-inspired creature. Most of the locations in the adventure are given really authentic names and translations and pronunciation help for those names. It's a great little touch, but sadly it's one that only the DM is likely to benefit from, as most of those wonderful evocative names are for the DM's eyes only. The adventure is heavy on the traps. In fact, most locations are a trap of sorts. Many are not immediately deadly, though there are some exceptions, but are generally designed to slowly eat away at the party's various resources. The nastiest of these traps, though, is one that extends throughout much of the dungeon, which is a lingering poison gas. Yes, even the air in the shrine is out to kill the PCs, doing poison damage to every party member every turn. This is clearly a mechanic used to ensure tournament players get on with the task in hand, and ultimately to contribute heavily towards a character fatality or three, either through basic hit point loss or by causing carelessness as a result of their hasty attempts to escape. Inhabitants of the shrine are not especially numerous, and most are not especially difficult either, though some do pose an added challenge brought about by the environment in which they are placed. Again though, the intention seems to be one of slowly draining the party, a form of death by 1,000 cuts, lots of little delaying tactics to make those cuts take effect. The module is supplied with only 3 pre-generated characters, and the tournament intro refers to them directly, Thus it is logical to assume that it was played at events with such a small party size. This leads the gas to make a little more sense in that type of scenario, as a group of 3 players will make decisions much more quickly than a larger group with less discussion and fewer arguments. As a tournament module, C1 is very, very good indeed. It's a highly entertaining romp filled with unusual and thoughtfully designed locations. It has interesting puzzles for the players and bags of atmosphere. One slight downside is that due to the circumstances, the players might not linger long enough to appreciate all of this, and with them unlikely to scour the dungeon as thoroughly as old school groups tended to, much can and will be missed. I spent hours reading and digesting every location in the module, only for my group to explore about 50 to 60% of it, while completely bypassing the rest. But few DMs would buy and prepare C1 for use in a tournament. Most of us are looking for adventures to plug into a campaign or to give us ideas. And here it is where it presents a number of issues. Firstly, if it is to be used in a campaign, the gas must at least be toned down somewhat. I used 1 point of damage per 10 minutes and gave every PC a save versus poison to negate this effect. The default is 1d6 points of damage every 10 minutes with no save. The pre-generated characters come supplied with a scroll with 3 slow poison spells on it. One PC has a full jar of Keogtom's ointment, and the cleric has neutralised poison memorised. How many campaign groups will begin so perfectly prepared, unless of course they've been metagaming? The pre-gens are also at the very top end of the suggested level range and all have significant hit point levels. Again, in a campaign this is unlikely to be the case. Played as written, the party will have to get a very long way into the dungeon before they can find clean air, and cannot rest and learn new spells up until that point. Thus the potential is there for a campaign group to be absolutely wiped out in no time at all. Another issue. Treasure doesn't matter much to a tournament group, but to a campaign party it's a raison d'etre, and there is very little in the module to make it feel as though the rewards are worth the effort needed to survive. However, that is easy to fix. I did so by doubling the value of some of the choice trinkets along the way. When I ran it in my recent campaign, my group fell into the Lost Shrine while exploring the forbidden city of I1. I made the changes I thought necessary. My group got through the adventure in 2 full sessions of about 5 hours each, and they got through by the skin of their teeth, without any character deaths, though it was very close on a number of occasions. Constant, repeated poison saves and the slow dwindling of hit points really added to the tension, and they reached clean air in the nick of time. Now this might be slightly controversial, but I believe that when played with the full poison effect using campaign characters of the suggested level range that are not specifically geared for this adventure, the Hidden Shrine of Tamoachan is considerably more deadly than the infamous Tomb of Horrors. At least a party can flee the tomb. However, I thoroughly enjoyed this adventure, despite the amount of work needed. It slotted nicely into the Forbidden City and made for a great change of pace from the sandbox nature of that module. But then I do prefer adventures to focus on testing the players rather than their characters. I enjoy puzzles and traps. It's not to say I dislike a story-based game, it's just that I tend to prefer most of my D&D to be classic old-school dungeoneering, and think that games such as Call of Cthulhu scratch the story and roleplay itch a lot more effectively. I'm going to give the Hidden Shrine of Tamoachan a very worthwhile 8 out of 10. But I do fully understand that there will be a significant number of gamers who dislike it for the reasons I've just spelled out. It is, after all, very low on combat and pretty much devoid of a plot. As with Tomb of Horrors, the Hidden Shrine of Tamoachan has an official 5th edition conversion found in Tales from the Yawning Portal. While the former's conversion is abysmal, Tamoachan's is much better. The change in pace and style of the later edition of the rules, along with the extra robustness of the characters, all balances out the innate deadliness of the shrine rather well. So there's a positive. Well, that concludes another old school module review. If you like what I'm doing, then click the thingies below and let me know, and thanks for watching.